What's up guys, Ryan here from Mudgunner. Today we are talking red dots for your pistols. So red dots have been around for a few years now, and by a few years I mean like 5+. I don't know exactly how long, but I would say in the last like 5 to 7-ish years they've gotten really big and they are continue to grow. Almost every gun nowadays comes out with an optic ready model, or they come out with a fairly inexpensive red dot on them. And I'm going to kind of talk about my opinions on red dots on pistols. So I would say, are they good? Yes. Are they faster acquisition than iron sights? In my opinion, yes. Now, should you have one for your gun? That's going to be kind of up to you, because what red dots do is they give you a bigger sight picture window other than your iron sights. And unlike iron sights where you can see them all the time, you can only see your red dot once you have the gun pointed in the way you need to hold it. So if I'm holding it like this, I'm not going to see my red dot. I can still see my iron sights. Obviously it's not a clear sight picture, but you're not going to get a clear sight picture on your red dot until you are holding it properly and until you have it pointed in a way where you're at least mostly on target. Because you can still obviously miss with the red dot, and they do have to be zeroed. I know some people don't necessarily know that or not, but yes, red dots have to be zeroed. It's not terrible, but yeah, red dots, if you are even like an inch off, you don't see the red dot. So you have to be pretty precise, where iron sights, they give you a little bit more slack than some people are used to. Now the thing with the iron sight is, if you're decent enough with iron sights, as long as your front sight post is on the target that you're aiming at, you're relatively going to hit it. But that also comes down to trigger control, because I know some very fast shooters with iron sights that would smoke me or plenty of other people with red dots. So don't just think that this is a cheat code that just gives you unlimited skill. You still need to know how to shoot it. But I would say what red dots do is they show you everything that you do wrong. That's probably the easiest way to put it, because when you are looking through your red dot, again, if you are pointing anywhere off within like an inch, you don't see it. And then every time you pull the trigger, if the gun jerks and you lose that red dot, it's showing you that you're doing something wrong. Iron sights, yes, it does that, but you don't notice it to your eyes as much. Or when people shoot and then they have to re-find the red dot, that shows that the gun is not going exactly back where they needed it to be in order to shoot again. So I think red dots can be helpful on showing you basically what you're doing wrong. I think they can also help expedite the process of learning how to use a handgun, as far as like your aiming, accuracy, trigger control, and all that. Because again, it's just going to show you everything that you're doing wrong. Now, it's kind of like the manual versus automatic in cars, right? This is automatic. Just shooting a basic handgun can be the manual part. I think it's definitely important to know how to use iron sights. It's also important to know how to shoot with just a basic trigger. Like, this is kind of a fancy upgraded gun. I think a lot of people get really carried away and they want the most expensive handgun with all the upgrades and the softest shooting subsonic 9mm because it makes it easier. But the other argument to that is buying, you know, a 600 horsepower car makes it easier to go faster, but that doesn't bypass the skills of knowing how to go that fast. So yeah, with handguns and with guns in general, I do think you should spend some time training and learning. And I've bought nice guns, but I didn't start off with all the fanciest parts for them. Like with my AR, I bought a Daniel Defense for my first AR, which is a good, reliable brand, but I still ran the same mil-spec trigger that basic ARs come with. I ran a basic safety selector, I ran basic iron sights, and I learned how to use that. With pistols, I actually have my very first pistol right here. I started out with a Glock 34. Now, while it is a nice gun, it had a stock trigger, it had just iron sights, no optic, no light, no nothing. And I really practiced with just the gun for a while. So it wasn't a cheat on gaining any skill. I wasn't running subsonic ammo at the time. I was just running standard off-the-shelf 9mm with iron sights and a basic trigger. So I think it's very important to, you know, really train up from the basics so you don't get stuck only being able to shoot a high-end gun with low recoiling ammo. And I know there's a lot of hype to it. I think we all want to obviously impress the people we go shooting with. If you're on social media, you want to impress the people you're showing for, and I get it, but again, don't let it bypass skill. Am I the greatest shooter? No. Have I ran subsonic ammo before in competition guns? Yes, but I would say the majority of the ammo I run is just standard off-the-shelf ammo because I can't afford all the fancy subsonic ammo all the time. So yeah, and if you're not familiar with ammo-wise, standard like 115 grain ammo, 124 grain ammo, that's like the weight of the bullet, that's moving at anywhere from like 1,100 feet per second or around that range. Where if you buy 147 grain ammo, a lot of that's moving somewhere around the 900 feet per second range. So it's bigger and heavier. that makes it slower shooting, and it actually makes it pretty soft shooting on a handgun. So just something to note, and try it out. Try some 147 grain ammo next to 150 grain ammo. You'll see the difference in shooting. But again, this video is kind of more tailored towards red dots, so sorry if I'm going on a tangent. I also realized I haven't really been posting as much handgun videos, so I want to get a little better about that. I do have a lot of handguns, but my specialty and like my favorites with guns is rifles. So I'm a rifle guy at heart, but I do like handguns, and I think it's very important to know how to use them. The other reason why I don't necessarily post handguns as much is, to me, they're a little bit more boring. This is, I mean, it's cool, and I get it's a Glock, but we have like a Smith & Wesson here. We have a SIG build here. These are still more boring to me than rifles. So sorry, not sorry. I like rifles, but I do like handguns, and at some point I'd like to get into the higher end handguns. I'm pretty into the high end rifles. At some point I'd like a 2011 and some other fancy stuff. I'm just not there yet. My main pistol overall has to be this. Now this one's chambered. I'll show you guys. And this is a safe direction for me to point it. This is the Shadow Systems MR918. At the time, it was about a $500 gun, and I have added a Streamlight TLR1, and I've added a Trijicon RMR. Those are the only upgrades I've done to this gun. This does have a fancy base pad on the magazine, but aside from that, the gun is stock, and I'm not, like, this is not me trying to brag or anything, but I've shot this gun next to people with staccatos, which are nice $2,000 guns, and honestly, like, I shot better than them because I have more time on my gun than they had shooting. So again, buying a $2,000 gun does not give you the skill to beat someone that's shot more with a $500 gun. So again, not trying to brag, I'm just saying training is important. And another thing with me and like my handguns with red dots, so my main gun is my Shadow Systems here, and the reason why it's my main gun to shoot like in basically any video where I'm shooting a handgun, it's because I have the holster for it. These holsters get pretty expensive. When I ordered this brand new from Safariland, it was about, I want to say it was like 250 bucks. I bought this when I was doing the tactical games at that time because I'm running this on a battle belt setup. So this is my main belt setup, and this is my main holster. And at the time I bought it so that it would fit my Glock 34 here, because this is a Glock holster. So I got one that fits a Glock 34 with a Surefire X300 and an RMR. It fits right in there. And it's a very nice holster. Now, I would love to run my Smith & Wesson MMP9 here. This is a Gen 1 Core series with an Apex trigger, also a Trijicon RMR. I got it with a Wilson Combat threaded barrel and a Streamlight. This is their like vampire style light. It's an IR light. Problem is I don't have these holsters for everything, so I'm kind of limited on how I can run my guns for you guys. But if there's anything specific you'd like to see on the channel, like this fancy SIG, I'd be happy to do a video for you. It just won't be as fancy with being able to draw and whatnot. But this one is a SIG build, so I think it started out as just a fire control. No. So this is basically a SIG fire control unit. It didn't start out life as that. It doesn't have the FCU serial number, but it's got their flat, nice trigger. I don't know how light it is, but it feels pretty light. It's the Wilson Combat frame, a Norso slide. I don't know who makes this comp. I bought it this way. And it has a primary arms red dot. I don't know what model, but it's just a straight up red dot. And then we have XS sights. So we have XS night sights that you can co-witness with the red dot, a comp, a frame. And honestly, shooting the comp is pretty nice. I have pinched myself, like not realizing how far, like, cause I press check or I'll rack it from the front. I have pinched myself in that comp, which doesn't feel good. This is one of my main comp guns. I have a factory Glock 17 Gen 4C with the ports in the top, but this is my only gun, red dot gun that has a primary arms. Basically all my other ones are Trijicon RMRs. So for a red dot gun, I really enjoy the Trijicon RMR. I don't own any Holosun pistol sights. I'm not saying I never will. I prefer Trijicon. One of my main carry guns recently has been this Glock 43 done up by Langdon Tactical. So this has a Trijicon RMR CC that was milled into the slide. I do have a rear iron sight right here and then an iron sight in the front. They're just blacked out iron sights, they're not night sights. And yeah, we have that on a Glock 43 and a Tier 1 concealed holster, and it's a pretty nice setup. I really enjoy it. My main carry gun besides this was my Smith & Wesson Shield. I still have it. It's a Gen 1 Shield with an Apex trigger and Trijicon night sights. So carry-wise, I'm fairly new to carrying a red dot. I do carry the Shadow Systems during like colder climates when I can wear a jacket because it is a little bulky, but yeah, this gun has the most rounds on it, and I really love having the Trijicon RMR on there. But aside from that, my very first handgun was this Glock 34, and then I think a year into it, I got the Trijicon RMR. And honestly, I shot this with the RMR on there a couple times, and then I gave up shooting with the red dot for maybe about a year because I just wasn't good with it. Like I was a worse shooter with the red dot than I was with the iron sights, and it didn't make me feel good. But I think it really comes down to, it was just showing me what I was doing wrong, like, you know, jerking the trigger, not finding the sight again properly. And again, it takes practice. So if you go with the red dot, just know it takes a little bit of practice. But once you get the hang of it, it is faster. And I'm getting to the point where most of the pistols that I do look into getting, I want to add red dots on them. I have quite a few pistols without red dots, but I will say I do think red dots are the way of the future for handguns. And I've been told by people that have been into this longer than me, people that were shooting in like the 90s and 80s and stuff, when red dots came out for rifles, they had a hard transition time to red dots on rifles. And obviously I never experienced that because I wasn't around during that time. But yeah, this is kind of the new thing. Not everyone is for red dots on pistols, but it is that next evolution of handguns, is everything's going to come red dot ready. Aside from that, I don't know what else. I mean, obviously lights are a big thing. I don't know if comps are necessarily going to be a main thing for pistols, because there's still a lot of pros and cons with the comps on a gun. Like, I don't think it's the most necessary for home defense, but red dots I do see it being the next big evolution, and it's already here. Again, like if Taurus and High Point and whatever, like cheap guns are coming red dot ready, or the Sky pistols, it's kind of showing you what things are leaning towards. But my one thing is, with the red dots, I really like buying like name brand stuff. I have seen plenty of those cheap Crimson Trace red dots breaking, other really crappy brands breaking. And in my head, I always thought Crimson Trace was a name brand, like they're lasers for handguns. Like lasers on handguns were such a thing. I think those have kind of phased out as red dots became more popular. But the Crimson Trace laser, which was it shoots a beam like an actual laser. People call them beams all the time too, like certain people that come into our store. But yeah, like the Crimson Trace laser was like a $200 add-on for a gun, and I always thought that was crazy. I would say relying on a laser is probably not the best thing. Just learn on iron sights or your red dot. But yeah, I'm not a fan of those really cheap red dots for pistols right now, because we are getting so many of them coming back to the shop broken. They just don't work well. Like even SIG is pumping out a lot of different types of red dots. The Romeo Zero has had quite a few issues from what I've seen. And yeah, Trijicon RMRs, they're really good. I have a few of them. I also have them on rifles, and they hold up really well. The Trijicon SRO, which is the more rounded one, those are more prone to breaking if you drop them. I don't know the science behind it, but this is just more durable if it's dropped. So it's got a little like U on the top of this. But yeah, this seems to be more durable than the Trijicon SRO, and that's expensive as well. Hollow sun dots are pretty good. A few of my friends have had issues with zero or retaining zero. So you shoot it one day and then the next day you bring it out, it's not zeroed. So that's something that my friends have experienced. But again, I just mainly run Trijicon. But yeah, I just wanted to talk to you guys about red dots and my thoughts on them. But again, just learn iron sights, then go to the red dots. And as far as upgraded triggers goes, start small and then work your way to the performance triggers as you build up the skill. Same thing with ammo. Start with, you know, standard off-the-shelf ammo, and then you can work your way into the competition ammo. But thank you guys for watching. I hope this helped a little bit, and stay tuned for my next video.